Before we dive into today's story, I need you to do something for me. Take a moment right now and hit that subscribe button, because the case I'm about to share with you, it's going to leave you absolutely speechless. This is the Conviction Chamber, where we bring you the most shocking true crime stories. Stories that prove truth really is stranger than fiction. Now, comment down below what state you're watching from. I want to know where my Conviction Chamber family is tuning in from today. Are you watching from California, Texas, New York, Florida? Drop your state in the comments right now, and let's build this community together. All right, let's get into it. Imagine this. You fall in love with someone. Deeply, passionately, completely. You know she's married, but she tells you the marriage is over. She says her husband doesn't understand her, doesn't appreciate her, doesn't love her the way you do. So you take the risk. You become the other man. You tell yourself, this is different. This is real love. This is worth it. But then, you discover something that shatters your entire world. She's not just cheating on her husband with you. She's cheating on you with 4 other men. 4 other men. That's exactly what happened to Trevor Mitchell. And what came next would end in a tragedy that no one saw coming. Trevor Mitchell was 32 years old, living in Charlotte, North Carolina. He worked as a personal trainer at one of the upscale gyms downtown. Tall, muscular, covered in intricate tattoos that told the story of his life. Trevor was the kind of guy who turned heads when he walked into a room. He'd had his share of relationships, but nothing serious. Nothing that made him think about forever. Until he met Sophia Carter. Sophia walked into his gym on a Tuesday afternoon in March 2021. She was 28 years old, stunningly beautiful, with long dark hair and eyes that seemed to hold secrets. She had a small rose tattoo on her collarbone. Delicate, feminine, mysterious. She told Trevor she wanted to get in shape, wanted to feel confident again. And Trevor was more than happy to help. Their training sessions started professionally enough, but there was chemistry, undeniable, electric chemistry, the kind that makes the air feel charged every time you're in the same room. After 3 weeks of training sessions, Sophia stayed late one evening. The gym was empty, just the 2 of them, and that's when she told him. "I'm married," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "But I'm not happy. My husband, Marcus, he doesn't see me anymore, doesn't touch me, doesn't love me the way I need to be loved." Trevor knew he should walk away, knew this was dangerous territory. But when Sophia looked at him with those eyes, when she reached out and touched his hand, he was already too far gone. Their affair began that night. For the next 6 months, Trevor and Sophia were inseparable. Well, as inseparable as you can be when you're having an affair with a married woman. They met at Trevor's apartment, at hotels, in parking lots late at night, anywhere they could steal a few hours together. Sophia told Trevor she was going to leave Marcus. She said she just needed time, needed to figure out the logistics, the finances, the divorce, and Trevor believed her. Because when you're in love, you believe what you want to believe. But Trevor started to notice things. Little things at first. Sophia would cancel plans at the last minute. She'd turn off her phone during their dates. She'd be vague about where she'd been or who she'd been with. When Trevor questioned her, Sophia always had an answer, always had an excuse. And Trevor, he wanted to trust her, so he pushed his doubts aside. Until September 23rd, 2021, the day everything fell apart. Trevor had the afternoon off, and Sophia had told him she was working late. She was a receptionist at a dental office, and she often had evening shifts, or at least that's what she told Trevor. But something felt off that day. Maybe it was intuition. Maybe it was all those little doubts finally adding up. Whatever it was, Trevor decided to drive by Sophia's workplace. He parked across the street and waited, 5 o'clock came and went. 6 o'clock. The dental office closed at 5:30. Where was Sophia? At 6:15, Trevor saw her car pull out of the parking lot, but she wasn't alone. There was a man in the passenger seat, a man Trevor had never seen before. His heart pounding, Trevor followed them. They drove to a restaurant on the other side of town. Through the window, Trevor watched as Sophia and this mystery man sat in a booth, laughing, touching hands across the table, looking at each other the way Sophia looked at him. Trevor felt like he couldn't breathe, like the world was collapsing around him. But he didn't confront them. Not yet. Instead, he took photos, video, evidence, and then he started digging deeper. What Trevor discovered over the next 2 weeks, it destroyed him. Absolutely destroyed him. Using social media, reverse image searches, and a level of detective work fueled by pure heartbreak and rage, Trevor uncovered Sophia's secret life. And it was so much worse than he'd imagined. Sophia wasn't just seeing one other man besides Trevor and her husband Marcus. She was seeing 4 other men. 4. Making Trevor the 5th man in her life. Let me break this down for you because it's almost impossible to believe. There was Marcus, her husband of 7 years. He worked long hours as an accountant, often traveling for work. He had no idea his wife was living a double life, or a quintuple life, I guess you'd call it. There was Trevor, who thought he was Sophia's one true love, the man she was going to leave her husband for. There was James, a businessman she'd met at a conference. He lived 2 hours away in Raleigh and believed Sophia was divorced. There was DeAndre, a fellow gym member who'd asked Sophia out months before Trevor even met her. He thought he was her only boyfriend. And there was Carlos, a bartender at Sophia's favorite restaurant. He was under the impression that Sophia was single and completely available. 5 men, 5 separate relationships, 5 different versions of Sophia's life. And somehow, impossibly, she was managing to keep all the lies straight, scheduling dates so they never overlapped, creating fake work schedules, fake friends, fake emergencies. It was diabolical, absolutely diabolical. When Trevor finally confronted Sophia with everything he'd learned, she didn't even try to deny it. She just looked at him with those eyes and said, "I never meant to hurt anyone. I just love being loved." Trevor couldn't believe what he was hearing. This woman he'd fallen so completely for, was a pathological liar, a manipulator, someone who treated people's hearts like they were toys to be played with. But here's where the story takes an even darker turn. Because Trevor didn't just walk away. He couldn't. He was too deep in, too obsessed, too consumed by the betrayal. Instead of ending things, Trevor decided he needed to expose Sophia to all the other men. He needed them to know the truth, needed them to feel what he was feeling. So Trevor created a group chat. He found contact information for Marcus, James, DeAndre, and Carlos. And on October 7th, 2021, he sent them all a message. The message included screenshots, photos, dates, times, locations, undeniable proof of Sophia's web of deception. And then Trevor wrote, "We need to talk, all of us. We need to confront her together." The meeting was set for October 10th at a coffee shop in downtown Charlotte. Neutral territory, public place. Trevor figured it would be safe, that cooler heads prevail. But he was wrong, so wrong. All 5 men showed up. Marcus, the husband, looked absolutely shattered. His whole world had just exploded. 7 years of marriage, built on lies. James, the businessman, was angry, pacing back and forth talking about how he'd been planning to propose to Sophia. He'd bought a ring, had it in his pocket right now. DeAndre was quiet, seething, his jaw clenched, his hands balled into fists. He kept asking how they'd all been so stupid, how they'd all been so blind. Carlos seemed almost detached, like he couldn't quite process what was happening. like his brain was protecting him from the full weight of the truth. And Trevor was the one who'd brought them all together, the one who'd orchestrated this confrontation. He thought it would bring closure, thought it would help them all move on. But emotions were running too high, pain was too raw. And when Sophia walked into that coffee shop, everything exploded. The argument started immediately. 5 men, all shouting at once, demanding answers, demanding explanations. Sophia tried to defend herself, tried to justify what she'd done, but there was no justification, no excuse good enough. Marcus was crying, asking how she could do this to him, to their marriage, to their life together. James threw the engagement ring on the table, told Sophia she was sick, told her she needed help. DeAndre was the most volatile. He got in Sophia's face, called her every name in the book. Security had to intervene, had to ask them all to leave. They spilled out into the parking lot, and that's when things got physical. DeAndre shoved Trevor, blamed him for starting all this drama. Trevor shoved back. Marcus tried to separate them. James was screaming at Sophia, who was now in tears, begging them all to calm down. And Carlos just snapped. Nobody saw it coming. Not really. Carlos had been the quiet one, the one standing back, observing, processing. But something in him broke. He walked to his car, and when he came back, he had a gun. Everything happened so fast. Carlos was yelling about how Sophia had ruined his life, had made him believe in love again after a devastating breakup, had given him hope, only to rip it all away. Trevor tried to talk him down, tried to be the voice of reason. But Carlos wasn't listening. He was too far gone, too consumed by rage and heartbreak and betrayal. The first shot hit DeAndre in the chest. He went down immediately, blood spreading across his shirt like a dark flower blooming. People started screaming, running, calling 911. But Carlos wasn't done. The second shot hit James in the shoulder as he tried to shield Sophia. He fell, clutching his arm, his face twisted in pain and shock. Marcus ran toward Carlos, tried to wrestle the gun away. They struggled, fighting for control of the weapon. And then, another shot. This one hit Marcus in the abdomen. He collapsed onto the pavement, gasping for air. Trevor was frozen, paralyzed by fear and horror. This couldn't be happening. This couldn't be real. Carlos turned the gun on Sophia. His hand was shaking, tears streaming down his face. "You did this," he said. "You destroyed all of us." And then, he pulled the trigger. The bullet hit Sophia in the chest. She fell backward, her eyes wide with shock, with disbelief. Like even in her final moments, she couldn't believe this was how her story would end. Police arrived within minutes. The parking lot was a war zone. 4 people shot, blood everywhere. Witnesses crying, traumatized, trying to explain what they'd seen. Carlos didn't run, didn't try to escape. He just stood there, the gun still in his hand, staring at what he'd done. When officers ordered him to drop the weapon, he did, without resistance, without a fight. He was arrested immediately, charged with 4 counts of attempted murder and 1 count of first-degree murder, because Sophia didn't make it. She died in the ambulance on the way to the hospital, 28 years old, gone, just like that. DeAndre survived, but barely. He spent 2 months in the hospital recovering from his injuries. The bullet had missed his heart by inches. James recovered as well, though the bullet in his shoulder caused permanent nerve damage. He still has limited mobility in his right arm. Marcus pulled through after emergency surgery, but the physical wounds were nothing compared to the emotional trauma. His wife was dead. His marriage had been a lie, and he'd nearly died because of it. Trevor wasn't physically hurt, but the guilt ate him alive. He blamed himself for organizing that meeting, for bringing everyone together, for setting the stage for tragedy. And Carlos was convicted on all charges: first-degree murder for Sophia's death, 3 counts of attempted murder for shooting DeAndre, James, and Marcus. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. During the trial, Carlos's defense attorney tried to argue temporary insanity, tried to paint Carlos as a victim of Sophia's manipulation. But the prosecution argued that Carlos had made a choice, that he'd gone to his car, retrieved a gun, and made the conscious decision to shoot 5 people. The jury deliberated for less than 6 hours before returning with a guilty verdict on all counts. At sentencing, Carlos read a statement. Through tears, he said, "I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. What I did was unforgivable. But I want people to understand, Sophia didn't just break my heart. She destroyed my ability to trust, to love, to believe in anything good. And in that moment, I wasn't thinking clearly. I just wanted the pain to stop." The judge responded, "Your pain does not justify taking a life. Your heartbreak does not give you the right to play God. You made a choice, Mr. Carlos Rodriguez, and now you will live with the consequences of that choice for the rest of your life." The families of everyone involved were shattered. Sophia's parents couldn't understand how their daughter had become this person, this manipulator, this liar. They'd thought they'd raised her better. Marcus's family rallied around him, helped him through the physical and emotional recovery. He eventually moved to a different state, started over, changed his name, tried to build a new life far away from the memories. Trevor went to therapy, lots of therapy. He struggled with depression, with PTSD, with survivor's guilt. He quit his job at the gym, couldn't stand to be in the place where he'd first met Sophia. He eventually moved to California, started a new career, but he's never been in a serious relationship since. Says he can't trust anyone, can't let anyone in. DeAndre and James, they both moved on with their lives as best they could. Both are now married. Both have tried to put the nightmare behind them, but they still have nightmares, still flinch when they hear loud noises, still carry the trauma of that day. So what do we learn from this tragic, devastating story? What lessons can we take away from the Trevor Mitchell case? First, lies always come to light. Always. Sophia thought she could juggle 5 different relationships indefinitely. She thought she was smart enough, careful enough, clever enough to keep all the balls in the air. But eventually, the truth came out. It always does. Second, betrayal can drive people to do unthinkable things. Carlos wasn't a violent person. He had no criminal record, no history of aggression. But the betrayal he felt, the depth of pain and rage, it pushed him past his breaking point. It made him do something he can never take back. Third, we have to be careful about who we let into our lives. Sophia was a master manipulator. She knew exactly what to say, how to act, what promises to make. All 5 of these men thought they knew her, thought they understood who she really was, but they didn't. They were in love with a version of Sophia that didn't really exist. And finally, violence is never the answer. Never. No matter how much pain you're in, no matter how betrayed you feel, taking another person's life, it doesn't heal your wounds. It doesn't bring you peace. It just creates more pain, more trauma, more broken families, more shattered lives. The Trevor Mitchell case reminds us that love can be beautiful, but it can also be dangerous. When love becomes obsession, when heartbreak becomes rage, when betrayal becomes violence, everyone loses. There are no winners, only victims. Sophia lost her life. Carlos lost his freedom. Trevor, Marcus, James, and DeAndre lost their innocence, their trust, their ability to love freely. And countless family members and friends lost their sense of safety and security in the world. It's a tragedy on every level. A cautionary tale about the dangers of deception, the consequences of betrayal, and the fine line between love and obsession. So I want to hear from you. What do you think about this case? Do you think Carlos should have gotten life in prison? Or do you think his sentence was too harsh given the extreme emotional circumstances? Do you think Trevor shares any blame for organizing that confrontation? And what about Sophia? Was she a victim of her own issues? Or was she simply a manipulative person who got what was coming to her? Comment down below with your thoughts. And don't forget to tell me what state you're watching from. I love hearing from my conviction chamber family all across America. If this story shocked you, if it made you think, if it reminded you to be careful about who you trust with your heart, then hit that like button. Share this video with someone who needs to hear this story. And most importantly, subscribe to the Conviction Chamber. We bring you the most compelling, shocking, and thought-provoking true crime cases every single week. This has been the Conviction Chamber, where justice meets truth, and truth is always stranger than fiction. Until next time, stay safe out there.